Okay, sir. Over to you, Suman, sir.
Okay. So I can understand that this is primarily a forum of the early career faculty members of mechanical engineering department. And uh, is it from only one university or from several universities or different colleges?
Only VIT.
Only VIT. Okay. So that is all right. That means there is a commonality in terms of the mission and vision as defined by the university, and all the faculty members are supposed to be aligned with that. Now, this is a kind of discussion where the formal PowerPoint mode of presentation, I think, is not adequate, and therefore I have not preferred to go in that way. So the way in which I am designing this session is that first I will talk about the funding opportunities and the standard or the expected approach of writing the proposals, and then the major part of the session I will open it up for question, answer and discussions, because that is where everybody has points or concerns or comments, and it is not just for VIT as university, but all other universities, that new faculty members or young faculty members, they are mostly very confused about this proposal writing and proposal submission, be it very established university or new university. The general perception is very, very similar. What I will do first is I will tell you that the first thing that is required is to have a transition of mindset from a research scholar or postdoctoral scholar to a faculty member perspective. Now, this is very, very important, because fundamentally, even if you are a PhD student or a postdoctoral fellow or a faculty member, you may be a part of, or you are in fact expected to be a part of a research program or research project as a part of the research program. But the role is very different, and this expected role, if we understand, it will help us to design and formulate the research proposals better. When we are research students or research scholars, or even to an extent postdoctoral scholars, the general thing is that instead of driving the research program, we are being driven by a research agenda. So the research agenda may be driven by a professor who is the supervisor. It may be driven by the requirement of the department or lab or institute, or maybe by a defined, well-defined sponsored research project for which the person is recruited. But as a faculty member, you are expected to drive your own agenda. And the first thing that will emerge out of driving your own agenda is to write a good research proposal. For most of the good universities and the universities which have a research oriented vision, nowadays when the faculty members are joining, universities are asking for the research statement or research vision or research plan in different languages. They are asking these things, and the logic is very clear that when a new faculty member joins, the new faculty member is expected to spearhead a direction of research. It need not always be a very new direction, because it may so happen that there are already few other faculty members in the university working in certain directions, and this particular research plan will add a dimension to that. Typically, this is very important for interdisciplinary research, and I will come to that. But more importantly, it is expected that the new faculty member will add a dimensionality to the research agenda already there, be it a new direction or be it a new feature in the already active research program. So that is the expectation, because it is very important. All of us are employed in certain organizations. So we have to first understand the expectations of the organization instead of just thinking it arbitrarily. And the best thing can happen if the expectation of the organization and the individual's career goal, they merge and move ahead in the same direction. Then it works the best. The motivation becomes the best. So what most of the organizations expect is that a new research program will start, or will be triggered out of this, and in that way it will give the institute an academic and research direction to grow, and it will also bring in revenues to the institute, revenues and certain facilities which the institute naturally will not acquire, maybe because it is not within the purview of the fee structure or the standard academic program, which is mostly for coursework. So the extra facilities and in fact the state-of-the-art facilities which are required for research, those may be acquired by these programs. So many times the new faculty members will ask that why should I write a research proposal? See, for everything, I think the first question is why and then how. So instead of starting with how, I will start with why. Why should we submit a research proposal anywhere, be it to the university, be it to a funding agency? Why we should do it? So one of the answers could be that if I do not do it, my career growth is stopped. And in a way, it is not a bad answer, because somebody who has no other motivation, at least will have a motivation of getting promoted in the same institute, at least. So if there is a strong requirement for that, it is an indirect way of urging people, but that does not create sufficient motivation. So sufficient motivation comes from the fact that if you want to do some research, see, every university has to make a balance or strike a balance between the coursework program and the research program. The coursework program is very important because teaching to undergraduate and postgraduate students is like one of the important mandated activities of any university. So university cannot just stop teaching and concentrate only like a research lab. That university cannot do. But the advantage with the teaching, which we commonly say as a burden, is that it can be linked very strongly with the research program, and in fact new courses can be designed based on the emerging areas of research. So with the research proposal, one of the big motivations is that we get research funding. Even without research funding, if we take a research scholar, say somebody who will do PhD, or even a MTech student who will do master's thesis work, the challenge is that the facility is required. That means to work on a research agenda, one needs to have equipment, one needs to have materials, and one needs to have human resources. These are all very important to drive an agenda. University may give a seed fund, and nowadays most of the universities will do that, at least for new faculty members. I do not have an idea what VIT does, but I believe that there is something in place, whatever may be the magnitude. But the expectation of the university would always be that that seed grant should be a prelude to the broader research canvas based on which the new faculty member will write different proposals for external grant. And that is what is university's expectation. And if the faculty member also has a vision or ambition to develop well in the cutting edge research, that will align with the faculty members' career growth also, because without those funds, the faculty member will not be able to get sufficient equipment, scientific equipment, and materials, consumables, whatever required, human resources, because for running a successful research program, it is not just sufficient that you have, say, 1 or 2 research students that is being assigned by the university, but you may require a variety of different research staff, starting from technician, laboratory staff, or even sometimes accounting staff or project management staff. So all these things university cannot provide. University can give some help, but that is a common pool. So you can take help of the accounts department or whatever department is there for some accounting. You can take help from maybe the purchase department. So, in that way, that is in bits and pieces possible, but the overall project management, for that human resource is very, very important. So in that way, writing research proposals will make sure that you get these grants and you can move forward. And it is like, it is a perpetual effect. If you have research proposals, you will have a driven, focused research agenda, because research proposal is mostly approved based on a focused research problem, which is well defined, and according to the assessment committee, it is realistic and it can be implemented. So in that way, you will have a focused research agenda. And if you have human resources who are recruited by the qualification that is demanded for that work, and if they work full time, there will be some progress based on which there will be some outcome, and in that way that research area will grow. The research group will get more projects, and more projects mean more resources, including the lab resources and human resources. So in that way, it is a perpetual growth, and that is how a research team can get into a very ambitious research program, which is a collection of very focused research projects. So what we call as program is basically a collection of projects. Project is just one problem maybe, but if you have a program, you may have several projects, and you can therefore drive a new direction of research as you become more and more experienced. So this part of my discussion, it makes it clear that why we should attempt to submit research proposals. Now the next question is to whom we should submit research proposals. And then the third is that how to strategize or write those research proposals. So when we say that to whom we should submit the research proposals, we have to keep in mind that the first target of submitting the research proposal may be an internal system within your own university. Every university will have some mode of internal support. In some cases, it is competitive, That means faculty members, once they prepare the proposal, it has to go through an evaluation competition, and based on that, in some cases it is more or less assured, but it has to be structured in a proper way for approval. Most of the times the faculty members have a tendency to take these very loosely and lightly. The reason is that it is because it is internal, it will work in either way, but it will depend on the internal dynamics, and therefore the real technical merit of the proposal is something that may not be the highlight for getting such a grant. But my first recommendation is that take these very seriously, because this is something which will give you a good practice of writing a proposal. Even if the internal people are kind enough and they may not be that much critic, I mean, there are several reasons. One could be that you are also a colleague, maybe a younger colleague. So even if they feel that there are sources of criticism, but they will not do it because of their kindness or the natural friendliness to a colleague. But when the proposal goes to outside, people are not that kind, and they may either write very bad review comments if the proposal is not well structured, and even on the face, when you are asked to defend the proposal through presentation, they may make extreme, I would say, abrasive comments, which will which sometimes it's very difficult to sort of digest. So in that way, I would say that the first preparatory ground should be the internal startup grant. Again, I am making a very general comment by considering all the universities as a very common structured system. The specifics of the startup grant for VIT are not known to me, but I believe that there would be something similar in place, irrespective of what is the exact magnitude of grant that is being provided. Now, the main part of my this discussion does not focus on that. It focuses on what we write as a research proposal to external funding agencies. So external funding agencies are the real targeted agencies where we should write grants to get research fund for supporting our research agenda. The main target should not be the internal system. So the first point is that what we should target for writing our proposals. So I would classify into two parts. Number one, the general research proposals, where perhaps here, because it is related to mechanical engineering, I will primarily focus on mechanical engineering. So number one is very general research proposal, general in a sense that focused, but general in the meaning that not target to particular call for proposals. So there are certain calls for proposals. For example, say some funding agency gives a call for proposal for COVID related research. So then it becomes very targeted. But first, I will not talk about that targeted research call or call for research proposals. So the generic ones are the ones which would be of broader interest, and I will first talk about that. The generic ones, again, depend on certain things which are typically low-hanging fruits. Low-hanging fruits in what it means, is that it is perhaps easier. I would say that nothing is easy now, because there is a huge competition, and it's very different from the time when we people started our career. So when I started my research career or faculty career in the early 2000s, at that time, the funding agencies did not get even a threshold number of research proposals, because research projects or proposals was not strongly connected with the growth or career growth of faculty members, and that culture was missing. So at least people told loosely at that time, that if you are a IIT faculty and you are submitting a proposal to the DST, perhaps it is it is almost like, if you have not written a very bad proposal, it is likely to get approved. Nowadays, that kind of thing is not there. The reason is that there is a whole lot of awareness about writing research proposals. Number two, even in newer universities, almost everybody is joining with a PhD degree in the assistant professor position. So they will have a natural research experience and they will like to work on projects. Previously, quite some time back, many of the engineering faculty members used to join after MTech. And in that way, they would not have much of research exposure, and initially they will be a bit hesitant in writing such proposals, etc. But nowadays, there are lots of early career faculty members who already have a lot of flair of doing research projects. They may have seen their supervisors or the previous places where they are, and they want to continue that culture. So in that way, many people apply, and the situation becomes extremely competitive. Being a member of some of these evaluation committees, national level, these ministry level committees, I realize that it is much more competitive as compared to the time when we started our career. But that is how it is. Things always evolve in a certain way, and we have to adjust to that. Although it has become more competitive, more number of very unique schemes have come up. So if you target to certain schemes, perhaps it is easier for you to get some of the research grants to build up your early career. So first, we have to see that there are certain age limited or experience limited grants. So I will start with one of the grants which all of you should target depending on the age groups in which you are. And I can imagine that most of the early career faculty members will be around 35 or less in age. So in that way, you have the scheme, the ACRB Startup Research Grant, or SRG. This is the first thing that I would like to highlight. So ACRB Startup Research Grant, or SRG, is a research grant focused for early career faculty members. So you can develop such a research proposal. I will come to how to develop the proposal, but now I am talking about what are the common funding agencies where you can target. I am starting with ACRB because this is perhaps the biggest canvas in terms of the general research support so far as mechanical engineering will be concerned. So ACRB, as you know, is the research fund dissemination wing of DST. So DST, or the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, will of course it has its own direct schemes, but the funding mechanism is primarily organized by an independent body called as Science and Engineering Research Board, ACRB. So ACRB has a structure in which there are different schemes, and the Startup Research Grant is something for which it is age limited. I will tell you one or two things that you should keep in mind about the age limited features. Number one, the age restriction has relaxation for women candidates. So that means normally whatever is the age relaxation, say X or age limit X, for women it is plus 5 years. Also for some of the special category candidates belonging to certain categories, there is age relaxation. So in that way, once you look into these calls, please look into the age factor very carefully and first make sure that you belong to that age group which is targeted, of course considering these women and other category, everything. Now the next thing is that this call for proposal is not throughout the year, that you have to imagine. There are certain calls for proposals which are active throughout the year, and now all call for proposals are online. So what it means is that once you have these call for proposals, you have to respond by submitting that online. To submit that online, what you have to do is, number one, create your profile in the online portal. So the online portal that I am talking about, and some of the things that I am talking about, just to make sure that you do not miss, I will write here ACRB online, and I can just open it in my computer and by screen sharing show you that what it is and how it looks and how the project proposal has to be submitted. So if you just type in Google the ACRB online and the first search that will come, that website, and you can simply put that up. So I will share my screen and show you that what you need to do there. Sometimes it may appear to be very trivial, but it is something that everybody should know. So what you see here, this is the ACRB online. So here there are different items. The funding opportunities, in general it is there. Downloads, you will see that different templates, like if you are submitting a proposal, there is an endorsement or certificate from the head of the institution. There is a template for technical details of the project which you can organize in the form of a final PDF file and upload. Template for RTGS for money transfer. Template for certification from the project investigator or convener or co-investigators. So in that way, there are so many of these templates, and templates for progress report if you get a project, template for biodata. So many of these things are there, and it will help you to formulate a proposal. Now, the most important thing is that some of the calls for proposals are they will always be they will always be coming up through the pop-up window. But what is also possible is that you can simply see the announcements. So in the announcements, you have the closed proposals. Although these are closed, you can see what they are, so that once they are open again, you can apply. Ongoing is what is active. So if you have ongoing, you can see here the certain schemes which are there. Core research grant. Core research grant is not the startup one, but it is something which you can apply irrespective of your seniority or age. Short-term special call on COVID-19, as I was telling, that this will be there for some time till COVID has some importance. Other special calls for proposals, you can see some focused items. This is something very important, which is Teachers Assistantship for Research Excellence, TARE. So in that way, this is a very important thing, and I will tell about this scheme more. But I was just starting trying to go through. There is a matrix scheme, again a special ACRB scheme, and ACRB fund for industrial research engagement, and I will come to the industrial research engagement subsequently. There are certain schemes which are open throughout the year, typically for special fellowships like say J.C. Bose National Fellowship, Ramanujam Fellowship, some visiting research fellowship program, international. So if the institute is inviting some eminent international faculty members, so these are very important, and for maybe the senior faculty members, it is important to be familiar with this if they qualify for this, or if even the department or institute qualifies for this. That is very much there. But individually, you will have these schemes which are open, which are ongoing, and you will see upcoming. So upcoming, you will see so many of these schemes, and it will tell you that what is the window in which this call for proposal will be open. There are some which are closed. For example, I was talking about the startup research grant. It is closed in March 1, 2022, just 2 days back. But it can, the general thing is that because these are very common programs, it will again, be active after maybe a few months. And you will see that there are specific like Women Excellence Awards, high value research grants, IRHPA, or high priority areas. So you will see that all these things are there. And so if you just study this website, you will see that lots of what are the different funding opportunities, and you can create a login ID by referring here, where your profile. So it's basically setting up a profile, just like setting up a Facebook profile. This is setting up your research or academic profile. Like you will be uploading your photo, ID like Aadhaar, etc., and also the CV, so that it remains as a profile against a login ID and a password. And once you create that account, you can anytime log into the portal, submit proposal, see what is the status of the proposal, and do any activity which is related to this ACRB, the Science and Engineering Research Board. So this is the general, the first thing with which you should start. And what I also wanted to say is that it is not just this ACRB, but also several other funding agencies like Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, that is one ministry, Department of Biotechnology or DBT, Ministry of Health and Family Welfares, Ministry of Textiles, Department of Heavy Industry. So many of all the ministries, you will see that they will have some programs, and the early career programs, DBT for sure it has, and so you can apply for those early career programs. There is a particular program which for which the calls are open now, and your faculty members can consider that. That is TARE, TARE. So this TARE is a scheme which is a mentorship scheme where a young faculty member from your university may be mentored by a more experienced and established faculty member from any other place, any other university. So there has to be a research proposal for which it's a common research proposal, in a sense that the mentor also has a stake and the mentor also has a funding, and the mentee, that is the candidate who is applying, also gets funding, and possibly including individual scholarship also for fellowship also for research items. So in that way, it establishes a connection with more established faculty members who are already nationally accomplished in the related domain. So you can visit their labs as a part of this, and you can acquire your facilities, do some joint research, and this is a structured mentorship. Mentorship doesn't work if it is unstructured. So for example, you can take advice from anybody by inviting for a program or maybe a seminar like this, but this will never be on a sustained basis until and unless that person also holds a stake for that. So this is a natural way of giving a stake to the mentor as well as stake to the early career faculty member. So in that way, it is also a very good program, and it is getting very, very successful. I see a lot of faculty members from different universities and colleges are collaborating with more established faculty members from different places, be it IIT or other places, and in that way, or other universities, and in that way there is a lot of enrichment. So these are schemes for early career researchers, but there are schemes which are for anybody, and early career researchers also can submit proposals in that scheme, not that they cannot do. So one is the core research grant, CRG, for ACRB, a very common but very competitive, because any research proposal you can actually submit through this. So once you submit a research proposal through this, your evaluation becomes more competitive because it is very, very generic. But this is a scheme where most of the faculty members, at least because I am there in the engineering and mechanical engineering related committee, so I see that this is the scheme where a large number of faculty members from different universities in the country, they apply. So that core research grant remains important. CSIR has also research grant for faculty members irrespective of the age, but CSIR's research grant is having some upper cap which is somewhat lower than ACRB and other ones. But from my experience, I have seen that because of relative lack of awareness, not that many people apply in the CSIR's research grants as compared to the ACRB. So this is just my practical observation. Nothing very, it's not, it's not substantiated by any rule or anything. So I have mentioned the other government funding agencies, and then there are schemes where you have a collaborative engagement between funding agencies. For example, one or two ministries together and with industry tie-up, it is possible to write proposals. And if you see that when there are calls, special call for proposals. So if you just look into the special call for proposals, you will find that they are targeted to certain applications, be it additive manufacturing. I'm just giving an example for mechanical engineering relevance, be it bioengineering, be it some socially driven program, say solar energy or renewable energy program targeted to clean energy or climate change. So many other some of these are very important activities, and clearly when these special call for proposals come where there is a focus and a thrust, it is better to come out of your extreme core expertise in mechanical engineering and try to team up with others. And that teaming up could be with other complementary specialists from your own university, or even could be collaborators from other universities stroke research labs, for example CSIR labs or any other labs which are not academic institutes but research labs. And of course something which is taken very, very positively, an industry, because any research proposal which is directly connected with an industry and industrial people are participating either as collaborator or maybe a financial support or a facility support provided by them, that acts as a very, very strong point in any proposal, even the startup research grant or core research grant, where that is not mandated. Still, that industrial support and industrial role is very clearly laid out. It is given a lot of credit, and normally it is reflected by the not just the contents of the proposal but also a support letter from some responsible person from that company. Why it is so? Because now there is with this Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat and all these visions, it is progressively getting more important to drive research for a product or a process which is usable either commercially or socially in that way. So not just some very, very academic work for which, until and unless the academic work is highly scientific and path breaking, that is fine. I mean, there's no problem with that. But otherwise, routine academic work is not something which is very much encouraged. So what is more encouraged typically for engineering departments is more application or translational research, which is leading to a product or a process and some applications. So when it is coming to product or process or application, connectivity with an industry, be it an established one or a startup, is very, very important. And if that is established, some of the schemes by their announcement and by their call for proposal, they will define a clear role that industry should have, and maybe a minimum financial support that industry should give for that. But even then, if it is not given, taking industry in the same boat and a multidisciplinary team or a multi-institutional team where there is a clear complementary role, that not it should not be the same thing that different groups are doing, a broad research agenda where for every module there is a expert group, and these expert groups are from different departments. For example, mechanical engineering may collaborate with, say, biological sciences to develop something in the domain of bioengineering. Mechanical engineering can collaborate with energy sciences department to develop some applications in energy engineering. Manufacturing. So in that way, maybe you can collaborate with some very specialized manufacturing industry to have some proposal which has a scalable manufacturing at the end. It doesn't just end up in the lab or your internal workshop. So in that way, it is always nice to develop a proposal which gives a tangible output, what we call as lab to commercialization or lab to market. So that is something which nowadays is very much looked for application oriented research, until and unless, again, I'm talking about with that exception that the research proposal itself has extremely strong scientific novelty. But what we see in most of the cases is that, for at least for early career researchers, whatever they have done in their PhD, little bit of tweaking and they will submit a proposal, and if that is seen and if a close similarity is found, it is not taken very positively by any committee. So what is important is that we should have target funding agencies, and a clear way of how to target these funding agencies is that you can look into the websites of these funding agencies or ministries and see what are the calls for proposals normally floated, currently active, coming in the future, and maybe it will be floated again. So in that way, it can be targeted and it can be focused. And what I would imagine is that it is extremely important to keep that as a possibility, and make sure that one can build up research proposals in tune of the requirements of the funding agency. So ideally, the department or the university may appoint maybe a group of people who will always keep an eye in the internet and in these websites and look into the call for proposals. Sometimes industries also have calls for proposals, or special programs for academic research funded by industries. For example, Cisco funds some research. There are companies who fund academic research. So they will have calls for proposal, like Samsung, Sony. There are many companies who will fund academic research and they will have calls. They may contact the university heads also for these programs. So somebody has to be very alert, because nowadays everything is online and everything is having certain deadlines. So that one has to be always keeping an eye, targeting the funding agency, targeting the scheme, and it has to be horses for courses. That means once you have a target scheme, you must align your research proposal according to that. So we had about, say, 1 hour of this this discussion. I would imagine that let us take maybe around 5 to 10 minutes of break so that people may get refreshed, because it's a long 2-hour program. The next part will be divided into 2 parts. Number 1, I will discuss how to write the research proposal, in a general way, of course, because I cannot just be very specific to one particular problem, but I will tell you what are the important guidelines or pointers. And then the remaining part of the discussion will be open to question answer. So let us take a short break, and maybe in around, say, 10 minutes, we'll be back with the next part of the this interaction.
Sure, sir. We are going to meet after 10 minutes.
So good morning, and we get back to the next part of my discussion, that is how to write the research proposal. So you have to imagine that writing a research proposal is very much similar to writing a paper, but the paper discusses about the results that you already have got out of your research, and research proposal discusses about what you want to do rather than some already obtained results. But the philosophy of the document building up is having a lot of commonality. Just like a paper, I am starting with a paper because all of you have familiarity of writing papers in your own domains. So if I start with that as a framework, you will appreciate the similarity and the dissimilarity. So when you start writing a paper, no matter in whatever way you organize, normally, the very interesting thing is that we do not follow the same chronological way of doing work when we write things. When we write a paper, first comes the title, then abstract, then introduction, etc. But when we are actually doing the research, perhaps we are having not much clarity about a focus title or abstract. We are mostly starting with some plan and doing some work, getting some result, and then building up a paper around that. Although results and discussions will normally come at a later part of the paper. So organizing a write-up is a bit different from the chronological way in which the things have been conceived or done. But the title is very important because it gives a focus. So when you give a research project title, make sure that you give a title which is focused enough and it creates interest. Do not give a very long over technical title. Give a title which is reasonable. It should be technical to an extent. It should not just read like popular science, but it should not be over technical and it should not be too long with lots of technical jargons. So that, for example, what I am telling is that, say you are specialized in mechanics of solids and you are writing a research proposal, where that is required, say on design something. Now that proposal at least should make some sense who is specialized in a different aspect of mechanical engineering or a different aspect of engineering. So it should not be technically so challenging that it will be difficult to make out that what the project wants to do. And every proposal has to have a proposal summary. And proposal summary is analogous to the paper abstract. Normally, nowadays, funding agencies are asking for very brief summaries, but in most cases, not less than 100 words, but roughly say between 100 to 200 words. So in that way, that very brief summary, which is like an abstract, you can clearly distinguish that into conceptual fragments. First, one or two sentences about the general impact and interest of the topic that you are proposing, and then you can say that despite a whole lot of advancement in the area, these are the clear things which are not known or missing. And then your proposal, that what you want to propose to fill up that gap. What is that work and the impact of that in the broad sense, that if it is done, so what? What are the applications in which it will help, or and if it has additional features like societal and other benefits, that also you can highlight. So that is like that summary. Now then, just like literature review that we have in the paper, the introduction and the literature review, for most of the research proposals, we have a background. Background is like introduction. That means that what is in the backdrop, that general importance of the field and your motivation of taking up this work. For example, anything COVID related, the motivation is clear that the impact of COVID, and maybe say, I'm giving an example, say somebody is devising a diagnostic technology for COVID. So one can say that that despite so many of these COVID testing techniques are available, they have their own shortcomings. Like RT-PCR test nowadays, it is not that expensive, but still it requires very special infrastructure. The rapid antigen test, very easy to do, one can do at home, but the accuracy is questionable. So there is a gap, and you want to bridge this gap and bring out a technology which overcomes these extreme challenges and come up with a balanced approach, so that at a reasonable cost technology can be developed which is accurate and it doesn't require a very elaborate infrastructure. And that will help not just for COVID, but any other infectious disease detection in the community level. So in that way, you prepare a background, and then state of the art. That is, normally Indian funding agencies will give a section on the national status and international status. Although when we write a paper in the literature review, we normally do not distinguish between national and international, but Indian funding agencies normally do. So you can break up your literature review into two parts. One is based on what has been done in India and what has been done internationally, and then come to a conclusion or recommendation or inference that despite these things being done, these are the aspects which have not yet been addressed, and those are very important. So if there would be many such aspects which have not yet been addressed, but you focus only on those aspects which you want to propose as a part of your proposal, not something which is too much away from that. And then you have to specify your problem and a research problem and objectives. So every proposal will have certain objectives, and the combined objectives will be your total proposal. So objectives may be either, typically they are asked in the bullet points or numbers one by one. So you can have the bullet items that what is your objective. So that starting from the beginning, so you can break the entire proposal into some short time small focused goals, which together will traverse the entire proposal. So one objective will follow the other like that. The next item is that what you will do to fulfill the objective, that is methodology. Now methodology is something where most people falter, because people may write crazy ideas, but they do not have a clarity of what they plan to do. So methodology in a different language is also known as research plan. So whatever it is, research plan or methodology means to achieve your objectives, what is your specific, maybe experimental agenda, theoretical agenda, if it is field work or any other type of work, manufacturing, what is that specific thing? Instead of telling that I want to do this by additive manufacturing, I want to do, and it's clearly laid out scientific or technical way of describing the methodology. So that is something which is I would say very, very important. And methodology you can break up in different sections. You may have experimental section, you may have theoretical section, and whatever others. And you will of course not have a clarity on the entire methodology because it is a proposal, not that you have already done. But to whatever extent you have clarity, you can put up. And one additional thing that you can put up is an early proof of concept. That means that you are putting up a proposal. People, if they have an idea that out of lot of groundwork and initial, some initial study, you have convert to the proposal, then that initial study itself could have yielded certain results, which is a prelude to your main proposal and which establishes some of the concepts of your proposal. That if you can put, for example, you want to develop a fabrication, a manufacturing thing, but say some of your designs you have already done some proof of analysis and optimization by some simulation, and that you can show and say that this is some preliminary design that I have made and I will further optimize this and put up to manufacturing with this exclusivity. So that groundwork, or you can say early proof of concept, you can put up some results. And then so that is more or less the technical part. And then you have to have the timelines or the so-called Gantt chart, that say a project over 3 years. So what are your time-bound objectives or activities over this period? And in fact include all the activities starting from recruitment of project staff, literature review, everything. It's not just that your problem solving, because each and every activity of the project will take some time. Even if once you get the fund to complete the recruitment procedure, you may take 2 to 3 months. To do a thorough literature review and maybe say early design study, it may take 2 to 3 months. So try to put all these up, because it will be a cushion at the end. If you get a project and if you are asked to present the progress, you can at least show that part of a progress against what you had put up in your proposal. And references have to be there, because you have a international and national state of the art as well as your methodology description, and those should be referenced just like you reference in a paper, and you can put up the references at the end of the document. And the most critical thing is the budget. So in the budget, you will see that there are certain items which are inevitable and common. Equipment and infrastructure. Normally for any research grant, we divide it into 2 parts. One is recurring and another is non-recurring. Non-recurring is that fixed asset, which is either infrastructure or equipment. Normally, no external funding agency will give infrastructure, because that your university will provide, say room with AC and other things that nobody will provide. But equipment, definitely they will provide. So you start with the equipment. So you give the equipment with some technical features, some key technical. So for example, if you are asking for a high-speed camera, so you write high-speed camera with certain frames per second or something like that, so that it gives an impression that you have made the homework and you have written that, and not just very casually put up a high-speed camera just for your general purpose activity in the lab. So in that way, equipment and its tentative cost, and to get a tentative cost, it is better that you take an informal quote from some vendor, or you log into the GEM and get a quote of the item from the GEM itself. You may be familiar with GEM, which is this government's e-market for different items, including scientific items. So you can say that it's government's Amazon or something like that. So you can create a login there and get quotes of various items. You can also get quotes from your known vendors. It is not a formal quote anyway, because once your project is approved, you will be required to get a formal quote. This is just to make sure that people cannot argue that you have put up absurd cost against some item. So you can show that this is the quote and it substantiates. Maybe plus minus 5 to 10% will always be there at the end, plus currency conversion factors, but this will be more or less of this order. So equipment, then consumables. Consumables will be the typical materials, chemicals, which are consumed. Maybe even the printer cartridge, these kinds of things, which you consume for your research, and it is not going to be a permanent asset. Travel, you better put up travel to make sure that once a year you have to travel for either your meeting with your other collaborating people in industry or other academic institute, or maybe presenting the research to the funding agencies meeting at their central location or any other location where they arrange for it. And maybe some travel money which could be related to either your field work or for attending some Indian conference. Indian funding agencies will not give you fund for attending international conferences, except for their special schemes for funding international conferences, but not these general projects. So here you can put up travel money for only domestic travel. And then you can put up some miscellaneous, for example, contingency, or contingency means suddenly something is required. Maybe some visitors have come, so you have to treat them for their lunch and accommodation. Other than that, you can put up. So miscellaneous or contingency, and field work, if field work is required. For some work nowadays, field work is required. So that is more or less. And then the institutional overhead. So every institute charges overhead at a particular rate. Why overhead is important? Because you may imagine that you are doing the research with the help of external grant or external money, but you are given a lab, you are given electricity, AC, and help of accounts and other staff to manage your project. So all these have some indirect cost. An institute therefore charges an overhead to meet up an this cost. May not be fully, but at least notionally. Different institutes have different rates. IIT Kharagpur has 20%, for example. But for government funding agencies, at the end, these rates will not matter, because they have a standard overhead for policy, and whatever they give, all the institutes accept it. So in that way, you can put up, if something is there as per their regulations, you can put that as a rate, or your institutional regulation as per the guidance of your relevant dean or vice chancellor. So in that way, you will get the total project cost. Typically, for a standard project to go through these, these committees, if you have crores of budget, then it is better to have in a special call with multi-institute, so that industry, etc., to have chances better. If you are having interested to have a realistic possibility, keep it less than 1 crore, and for this startup or early career, typically less than 50 lakhs to sound more acceptable for funding. And once you prepare the research proposal, make sure that you read it very carefully to understand the focus, the novelty, and its impact in the practical application area, and also pass it through a plagiarism check, just to make sure that there is no part copied or pasted directly from any open source material, be it old paper or old thesis or whatever is available, because then there is a chance of falling in great trouble if someone points it out. So university better have a mechanism to look into that, because sometimes it is not that intentional, but it can create problem. Even literature review, not just your research definition, but also literature review. So that is, how you make the proposal. And so you can see very much similar to the concept of how to formulate a good paper, except for the paper you have the final results, and here you have promises of the final results instead of the actual final results. Different funding agencies may have other additional points, and of course most important point is that there are few additional points, like if you have co-PIs, so one of you will be a principal investigator, but your other people in the project, other faculty members or scientists, they will be co-investigators or co-principal investigators. So their CVs and what are their roles, you have to take people who will have complementary contribution. So if you have a contribution and your friend or colleague has exactly a similar specialization and contribution, then that may be questioned, that why that person, you are already there. So it is better to accommodate in the team people who have other aspects of expertise which you do not have, so that all of you may complement it together. For the budget, justification is very important, that if you put up an equipment or consumable, why do you require that for a specific project? You may always have in your mind that, well, I require this for building up my lab. Even if it is there in your mind, it should not be reflected in the proposal. In the proposal, it should reflect in a way that that is so indispensable that without that your objectives will not be met. And sometimes they ask question, if you are putting up some general items, that your university may already have similar items. So you have to be prepared for an answer. Either you have to clearly say, no, it doesn't have, if it doesn't have. If it has and still you want this, maybe it's a slightly different version which is very much specialized for your need, or the university's common item is engaged almost full day, so you require some dedicated item for your continuous research. So that kind of justification you have to put. And the other thing is that many people have a tendency of putting many soft items because they are easy items to put, like computer and all those things. So you can always put up some computer maybe, but at the end it is extremely unlikely that you will get sort of collection of computers as a part of this proposal, because people take it very negatively. They think that you are just trying to get a computer, because a research project is not about having a computer and working on it. So better put other specific physical items, and for computer you can put maybe one, or naturally if you have a good high-end equipment, there will be a computer interface for that high-end equipment, and that anyway may come as a natural you can say companion, rather than emphasizing on that. So these are few strategies with which you can put impact, and of course the different endorsement letters as per their format, plus the industrial collaboration letter if you have. With all these, I think that you can really frame a very strong proposal. And if you have some internal mechanism, try to route through some of your internal committees once, where active and senior professors who have already done several projects, they may be a part of the committee, and they can give you some insights on the strengths and weaknesses of your proposal, assuming that they will be put up to neutral reviewers for reviewing and assessment. So in that way you can have committees who will assess this. Maybe one or two external members also can be taken if they are available. And then that's it. So your proposal will be ready, and you can prepare a single document and then just copy and paste the relevant things within the word limits in the portal, and the main methodology etc., for which schematics etc. and all those things are there. Normally you can upload in a PDF upload form, for which that will be unrestricted number of words etc. But like the summary, objective, these may have some restricted numbers of words which are text box entry items. And so that's it, more or less. That is how one can formulate proposals. Doesn't matter whether it is to a focused call or a general call. This is what we should keep in mind, perhaps to make the proposal very, very impactful. So I'd like to stop here and maybe for another 10-15 minutes, listen to any questions if we have and interact accordingly.
Yeah, faculty members, if you want to ask any queries to Professor, you may raise your hand. Sir, I have one question. As you were telling earlier, like there are certain calls like code research grant where the competition is going to be really high because everyone try to apply for such type of proposals. So how to improve the probability of acceptance and what additional measures we can take?
No, I mean, I would say that it is very, very straightforward. Just like how to write a good paper. So you have to put a clear aspect of novelty and impact. And that should be there. So it should not be routine or incremental. And if you make your proposal like that, and with a lot of application perspectives, practical aspect, innovation or impact, and novelty, and all these factors taken into consideration and written well, that's it. I mean, that's the best that you can do, because in many cases, just like papers, even the best of the write-ups are also dealt with very badly by the reviewers, but that you cannot help. That is very individualistic, and we should not negatively think about it and be unnecessarily defensive. Just do your best by putting up a lot of effort to enhance the novelty and the impact as evident from your proposed problem.
Sure, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Sir, in the timeline, is it better to put part or CPM as compared to Gantt chart? Is it suggested better, or there is
No. I mean, so it need not be over technical. I mean, normally they will ask you a bar chart or something like that. So it is just to make sure that you have activities and you have dedicated times or time spans for activities. Some are overlapping and some are non-overlapping. That is what they want to see, nothing more than that.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. I am Manas. Sir, I have a specific question. Now, suppose I have a working area in droplet evaporation, droplet spray evaporations. Okay, so can I write a project? And all the publications are related to that field. But can I write a project maybe in the thermal field, but where I don't have that much of publications?
No, I mean, there is no problem with that. But you, through your write-up, you need to give a confidence to the reviewer. See, you have to study the mind of the reviewer. You may not have done the work in that specific area, but the reviewer should have a confidence that you will be able to successfully execute the project. So you may relate that with some of your prior experience, which may not be directly that problem, but for example, you have worked on evaporation, droplet evaporation, and you are specifying some area on, say, combustion. I'm just giving an example. Yes. So it may not be directly droplet evaporation, but you can say that a whole lot of transport phenomena during combustion is also heavily linked with the energy transfer and typically the heat transfer and mass transfer associated with different reactive and non-reactive processes. Out of that, evaporation is one of the key things, and through that you have a prior expertise and experience of handling such heat and mass transfer problems, and now you want to extend that to more complex scenarios involving
Okay.
Any other question?
Faculty, any more queries? Yeah, if there are no queries.
Sir, 1 minute, another question. Sir, for
Yes.
getting the CSIR funding, is it required to collaborate some of the researchers of that lab, particular lab?
No. I mean, CSIR research grant, you can just write, I mean, on your own. I mean, it is just your research group. It need not be linked with any CSIR lab.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I am having one more question, sir. More technical. For example, my research area is towards the different stream. And right now, I am not having publication in the electrical or electronics portion. So suppose dispersion stability, I'm trying to relate with the electrical parameters or some zeta potential quantification. So when we are writing such project, since I'm not having a different stream, a background or publication, so how can I justify this thing?
No, it is very so it is very easy. If you are not having a back, that is what I told at the beginning, that you better have some researchers who have the complementary strength. See, research is not about mechanical engineering. See, there is a problem that you want to solve. The problem doesn't understand whether it is mechanical, electrical. Nowadays, all systems are more or less cyber physical with electromechanical, computer, AI, ML. So many things integrated. So very difficult to say whether it is mechanical or, it's not that classical old days when we used to have separate mechanical and non-mechanical systems. So what you can always do is that you can build up on your core expertise and write a proposal where other complementary aspects are also required, maybe electronics, computing, etc., and bring in co-PIs who have experience in that and put in your team. And then if anybody asks, you say that, yes, I have the core expertise and I have the overall breadth and vision, but for that specific core domain, I also have co-PI and they will be helping for that domain specific work.
Thank you, sir.
For example, say you are working on a medical technology, so you can have a co-PI as a doctor, say, because you may not have ideas of the clinical factors, etc. And this I commonly face, and that is why I am saying. And then many questions I say that I may not have a correct answer to this because I am not an expert in that domain, but we have this person who will advise me that what are the specific technical or technological requirements out of his clinical insight, and that I will develop and he will validate in his clinic and say whether it is performing properly or not. So that is his role.
Thank you.
Faculty members, any more queries? Yeah, if there are no more queries, Divya ma'am.
Sorry, sir.
Yes.
Okay. On behalf of ScoreXL and the Center for Teaching and Learning, Dr. Suman sir, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking time from your busy schedule to be the guest speaker for the day. And this topic was really magnificent and your words were really enlightening, besides giving us a more in-depth knowledge on how to write a proposal and how to get it selected possibly. So indeed, I myself being a scope faculty, got so much knowledge from this particular session, because this was although it was relevant to most of mechanical topics, but still you very clearly explained us how to write a research paper, and that too by comparing how do we write a proposal by comparing with a research paper. That was indeed the best thing, sir. So thank you so much for your patience and for answering all our queries, sir. And we wish you all the best in all your future endeavors. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And because you have recorded this, and in fact, many of the younger faculty members in our institute also like to ask similar questions. And as a dean of the research and development at IIT Kharagpur, many times I need to answer some of these. So if you could share with me a recorded version of what I told, because you have already recorded. So in that way, I can share it with some of our younger colleagues. I mean, in terms of age group and aspiration, many of them are having a lot of similarity with the participants here. And I think that it will help them also.
Sure, sir. We are going to share with you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and all the best for the remaining part of this faculty development program.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, goodbye.